Afternoon. I'm told that I need to finish in 45 minutes, so if you think this is a bit of an express train, please forgive me. Apologies to the panelists if I have to cut you in between because 45 minutes is 45 minutes. So let's get this up and running straight away. We're talking about refining and mining opportunities in India. Just heard in the earlier session that there are 5 accredited refineries. VK, do you want to say something on that? Why are there only 5? Why not more?
This 5 accredited refinery is the BIS accredited for the GMS purpose. So now the number will be increasing. They are talking about 30 more will be coming very soon.
Okay.
So, earlier there was restrictions of 3 years. Now they have reduced to 1 year of existence.
Forgive me. Is there a norm for accrediting a refiner in terms of either the ability to refine, the capital at stake, the number of years he has refined, the volume he has done, or is it, I like your face and therefore I'll accredit you?
See, the BIS has its own way. They generally see your facility and within a few days they approve it. If you are talking about the accreditation process as a LBMA or other exchanges, they have a different process and BIS is yet to mature in that. Let's put like that.
So could we kind of suggest, and this one is for you, Anil, you're the other refiner here, could we suggest to the BIS, have a look at what other international bodies do? Look at the LBMA, look at others, look at the Chicago Board of Exchange, look at COMEX, see what is their criteria for accrediting refiners, take a lesson from that and try and apply it over here. You think that's good?
Comparing to the criteria for accreditation of refineries, as compared to international standard, Indian standard is very slack. I would admit right from the day one.
No, we recognize it's slack. We're trying to see, is there a way to improve it?
It can improve. We have to basically see the refineries which are already in existence, whether they have that enough of infrastructure.
Let me leave a suggestion with you. I told you I'll be interrupting.
Yeah.
Why doesn't the refining industry get together with the BIS, create a 3-body, 4-body panel, and try and set an international norm to be followed in this country? I'm sure the commodity exchanges will be very happy with that. And therefore, we have accreditation, which, forgive me, BIS, if you're here, which is not lip service, but is actually technically proficient. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, that would be ideal, I think, probably, to have international norms basically applied to the refineries.
So that's one step towards taking this country to a global standard. Sudeep, you want to say something on that?
I think it's an excellent idea. Make in India is supposedly...
Make in India to a global standard.
Absolutely.
Not make in India to an Indian standard.
Indian standard.
That's the difference.
Absolutely correct. And I think that is extremely important for all the other schemes we are talking about. We should have confidence in gold refined in India. That's absolutely critical.
Fine.
I think you have done a commendable job.
Jerry, you want to say something from an international perspective?
Yes, I would like to. I mean, one of the biggest challenges and what the importance also for a refinery is very much also the capitalization of a refinery. Anybody who leaves gold for refining with the refinery is giving the refinery a fully 100% unsecured loan at any time until the refined product is ready in the case of a toll refiner, and in case, obviously, if the refiner buys the gold after refining, until then, the refinery enjoys a fully unsecured loan. And that's something where capitalization of the refinery has to play a role.
So we're in general agreement that the industry and the regulator needs to get together and try and come out with a well-thought-out norm as to how you accredit a refiner. Okay, and that takes you to mining opportunities in India. I think we have 2 mines that are more or less defunct and nothing else is happening. Does anybody have a clue on mining? Sudeep, do you know anything?
Not really.
You're the investment banker over here. Anybody comes to you for money, help me finance?
Not really. I think the Etat Talcher thing is stuck in some bureaucratic muddle.
Okay.
Nothing is happening there.
VK wants to say something on mining in India.
So the mining in India, there are number of exploration license which the government has given it, but it's not working with because of some state government intervention and all, especially with the Deccan Gold. They have more than
So what you're saying is there is opportunity.
Yeah, there is opportunity, and a lot of the southern part of the India, there is a gold. And the geologist report is there. Apart from the mining, you have a tailing in the India, the old tailing.
So do you have any suggestions how to take this forward?
Yeah, because I'm not talking about the tailing because it's a sub judice matter and it's under the Supreme Court. But
Most things in this country are sub judice, but never mind.
yeah, but it's a sub judice because it's going with the workers' union of the Bharat Gold Mines and all. But there are a lot of tailing
Chirag,
and
you
which,
wanted to say something on this? Sorry, I'm just trying to get this up and
Two
running.
things. I think if one needs to get a mining license, one has to go through at least 100 desks, which means that there is a lot of bureaucracy which is involved. Second, there is a problem. A, I need to apply for a prospective license, then I have to apply for a exploration license.
Let me just run you through what happens when Barrick wants to invest in a gold mine in Chile. From the time they start the preliminary investigation till the time they come with a bankable report and they get the finances and they get environment clearance, the average duration is 12 years. And even then, when you're way in the middle of setting up a refinery, mining company, and Barrick has taken a hit of $2 billion on environment.
Absolutely.
Yes. Because of the challenges that are faced in mining. So, a bit of a call, but
देखिए हिंदुस्तान में रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट का कोई सोर्सेज है नहीं है माइनिंग काफ़ी अपॉर्चुनिटी हिंदुस्तान में है ऐसा नहीं कि हिंदुस्तान में सोना नहीं है जैसे कि वर्ल्ड के अंदर 10 से 12 साल में
सोना
आपने
बहुत
बताया
है 20,000 टन है उसकी बात नहीं हो रही
नहीं मैं उसकी नहीं मैं माइंस में बात कर रहा हूँ कि रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट का कोई सोर्स है नहीं है फिर एनवायरनमेंट की प्रॉब्लम होती है इश्यूज लाइसेंस के इश्यूज होते हैं जल्दी क्लियर नहीं होते जो फॉरेन के अंदर 10 से 12 साल में एक माइंस का प्रोजेक्ट कंप्लीट हो जाता है हिंदुस्तान में अगर मैं चाहूँ तो 40 साल में कंप्लीट नहीं कर सकता हूँ इतने इश्यूज है यहाँ पे
So, you think there is the scope,
Yes.
but where the red tape is killing it.
Exactly.
All right. Let's go on to something a little more related to refining, and that is this fascinating topic of sourcing doré. I don't know what you mean by standard gold. We'll just confine it to doré. Just a little observation for everyone. In the current financial year, it is estimated that gold being refined in India from doré will touch 50% of the total gold bullion being imported into India. So that's one huge plus for Make in India. How and why it's happening is a different matter altogether. Here we're discussing sourcing of doré, and I know Sadish has been making some very nice reports on it. Quickly in 2 minutes, I'm not going to give you more than that. What do you say about this?
See, currently we are getting it from 16 countries, but then there's always a question that is the origin correct? So that's been an issue. So sourcing of doré, I think that's a major improvement that needs to be done from moving from powders and nuggets to actually getting into right doré, in the sense to a kilobars market.
So let's look at it differently. From a global perspective, you have the large-scale mining companies, and then you have what we call the artisan and small-scale mining. The large-scale mining companies all will follow ethical gold, responsible gold, so on and so forth. However, the problem, or let us say the issue, not the problem, is how do you address this when you're tackling artisan and small-scale? KP, you want to say something on this?
Thank you for the opportunity. Rajesh ji, see, I have been following the standards given by the OECD in terms of the OECD due diligence guideline, LBMA standards, even standards of the BIS. I noticed that the BIS standards, they are very sketchy in the nature. They are not designed to take care and to take Indian bullion and jewelry industry in future.
Let's not make BIS the villain of the piece.
No, I'm not trying to make it, but I'm just trying to ensure that all the industry doyens are here, the leaders are here, and everybody has to take maybe next 5, 10 years, it may not be possible, but we have to create the vision. We have to have some kind of planning and policy to how to increase the ethical standards,
Let's
how
put
to
it
have the
this way,
proper
as,
ethical supply lines.
as a nation, and not talking about the panelists here, as a country, do we put a value on ethics and morality when it comes to doing business?
It's very
As a
important.
nation, do we?
It's very important, and as we grow, especially from 2010 onwards, in every piece of business, wherever, maybe textiles, maybe agriculture, maybe the petroleum, maybe the gold, bullion, in every field, some kind of standards are being developed worldwide since we are heading a knowledge economy. Standards are very important, and ethical standards are even more important. I'll just give you an example. Right now, the organic food is grown, and everybody pays a premium price for it. The reason, many of the organic food producing companies, they are saying that they can take the producer of the dal to a field from where it came, what kind of soil was there, what kind of fertilizers were used, whether chemicals were used, pesticides or biocides were used, and it was naturally grown, what kind of temperature, what are the moisture content, what are the climatic conditions. So the world economy, the society, technology-oriented society is moving to a far, far level, where the traceability is very
You
important.
are recommending that the regulator should seriously consider responsible gold,
Yes,
should seriously consider mandating auditing of responsible gold.
Yes.
Is this what you're suggesting?
yes, exactly. Exactly.
Jerry,
And
you have a view on this? Sorry, there's a mic there.
Sorry. I firmly believe making money is relatively easy these days. The big problem and the big issue is reputational risk. And this is the overriding, and this should be the ethical standard, should be the overriding issue what should be addressed. From the example, just take very quick, Ghana. 100 tons a year production, 70 tons from Ghana go to the big mining companies who bring in it to wherever, to Germiston, wherever to refining. Leave the 30 tons from artisanal mining. And this gold comes now mainly or nearly exclusively to India because also of the tax advantage.
Yeah.
The fact is 120 tons get imported from Ghana. I mean, there is an investigation.
Are you suggesting that we've discovered the technology to manufacture Dore?
No, maybe more certificates and certificates of origin. I would like to believe there is an investigation waiting to happen. So I think ethical standards are very important, and everybody should be
Do you
very
want to say
careful.
something on that?
Just
I'll
want to
just
add-
come back to you.
Just want to add something here. Just pointing out to the United Nations Security Council report that was released on 20th November, which gives an example of the gold that's been smuggled out of Eastern DRC. So that's about $400 million is being smuggled out from DRC, Eastern DRC, to the within the African countries. So and taking another example in the same context, few years back, one of the very reputed refiner in Europe came under the United Nations hammer for considering for financing the arms conflict. So in this case, in India, we have been trying to ignore this completely.
Oh, we've succeeded very well in ignoring it. For
It's-
sure.
It's been ignored completely to an extent that many do not understand the consequence of it. You may not be realizing what's happening currently, but then 2 or 3 years down, when the United Nations is able to trace the gold to the DRC, and it has realized that it has been gone through a smuggling route and for the arms. So, that's a financial sanction
Let
that
me
comes
take
in.
this to a gentleman who perhaps
So there's the banks
transports
and the
the
refiner who gets
maximum
affected
amount
with it.
of Dore into India. Do you have a view on this? Purely from a logistics provider, but also concerned with what you are transporting.
Sure. So I think as a logistics service provider we have a very strong KYC norm. So when we deal with customers, whether it's Ghana, whether it's India, our KYC norms generally cover most of these concerns which you've raised. But when it comes to the actual shipment or the commodity, then we accept it on a set-to-contain basis. And quite frankly, we don't have any norms.
So as the logistics provider, you do not concern yourself with how it has been generated?
To a certain extent, yes. The KYC norms typically should
You do a
address-
KYC on the mine, you do a KYC on your counterparty, which may or may not be the mine?
It's typically on the mine.
It's on the
but,
mine.
But when it comes to a counterparty, when it comes to a
I
trader,
have to ask you, how much doré do you bring in from Ghana?
So from what
This is very interesting.
the last couple of months, I think we're talking about 50%, 40 to 50% of the.
And you recognize all those mines?
I mean, wherever whatever we're doing.
That is
But
pretty
then
good.
it's a very
So
small.
he's going to be your benchmark for responsible sourcing of doré.
It's a very small percentage of what we do with gold, which we import.
Okay.
And that's where I sense that there are other companies who are actually handling logistics.
Well, actually, you know, the thing with responsible gold, as with everything else in terms of the way you conduct your business, is the ability to walk away from business and say, no, I'm not going to do it because I'm not satisfied with the transparency in what I'm doing. And I think if you look at responsible gold or anything else, the issue really is, it's not know your customer, it's know your transaction. Where is it going? Who is it going to? Why is it going to? I'm involved, I'm a carrier, I have a reputational risk. Should I do it? Should I not do it? Of course, it will make me money to transport it. But should I or should I not is the entire issue behind responsible. Anil, you get gold from Ghana or you don't?
We were getting gold from Ghana few years, I think probably about 8-9 months back. We have stopped it. In fact, the first gold
You
consignment.
stopped it, great. Here's one person who stuck his head out and said, responsible gold. Give him a clap, please. Carry on.
Yep. I just wanted to add that the risk management aspect is also a part of the responsible, not only sourcing, but processing. So as Indian refining is set to grow further, the risk management aspect would also need to grow along with that.
I think we're trying to distinguish between risk and ethics. Responsible gold talks to you about ethics.
Right.
Risk is inherent with any transaction you perform.
Right.
Yes, Sudhir?
There is another aspect to the entire thing. I mean, I'm coming back to the point you're making on ethics. The regulations, the way currently it's formulated, you know, it's nowhere in the world that if you're importing doré, it has to be 5 kg and things like that. That's not how doré naturally is produced by the mines. So why have these kind of things and push people towards places like Ghana? I mean, since we are discussing Ghana.
Listen, we import arguably the maximum amount of doré and we deal only with mining companies all over the world, reputed mining companies. I have yet to see a doré bar that is 5 kilos in weight. The average doré bar I get is 10 to 11 kilos. But the rationale, I believe, in the 5 kilos was that when you deal with artisan in small scale, and you don't have such large quantities, and you have this concept of an aggregator who's taking from mine A, mine B, mine C, then you melt, and therefore 5 kg was a number that came up, more by default than by design. Prithviraj, you want to say something?
जैसे गाना के बारे में आप कहा था इम्पोर्ट है कि पहले कभी भी जब डोरे बार इम्पोर्ट होता था तो प्रीमियम नेगेटिव में होता था. इन्होंने कहा कि अभी जो इम्पोर्ट क्यों हो रहा है गाना से इतना ज़्यादा, उसका मैं रीज़न बताता हूँ. आज $14-15 प्रीमियम हो गया है, तो बेसिकली है कि प्रोडक्शन भी ज़्यादा करेंगे. छोटे छोटे जो उनके अगल बगल में जो छोटे छोटे टापू है वो भी सोना प्रोड्यूस करके घाना के थ्रू इंडिया में भेज रहे हैं, क्योंकि $15 प्रीमियम हिस्ट्री में कभी नहीं हुआ था. फिनिश प्रोडक्ट आज $1.
तो अच्छा है कि बुरा है?
नहीं, बुरा इसके लिए है कि गवर्नमेंट की जो 2% की जो पॉलिसीज है, जो 1% फ्रॉम द रिमोट एरिया लाइक रुद्रपुर,
2% from excise-free areas, 1% for normal
एग्जैक्टली
areas.
बिकॉज कि अगर जो अभी जो प्रीमियम जो इतना हाई होने की वजह से ऑब्वियसली है कि इंपोर्ट भी काफ़ी बढ़ गया है. तो जो गाना से जो गोल्ड आ रहा है, जो साइड के जो छोटे छोटे कंट्रीज होते हैं वहाँ गाना में सप्लाई करते हैं और वहाँ से फिर गोल्ड आ रहे हैं.
This one is for Som Sundaram if he's around. It'll be very interesting to see the World Gold Council figures for mine production in Ghana next year. You'll find an astronomical jump in the quantity of doré that comes from that country. Best of luck to you.
I think what is
the supply chain of the bullion and gold, it has a tremendous potential to damage the world economy, especially
We're
the
talking
banking
about
sector.
money laundering, we're
Yes.
talking about drug abuse, we're talking about promoting terrorism. All these issues are
Yes,
related
yes.
to what you're saying.
Yes, yes, these are the issues. In fact, I'll give you the specific examples. I just happened to go through some of the reports in the Securities Exchange Commission in USA after the Frank-Dodd Act. Only 5% of the companies who reported data around more than 1,000 companies, only 5% company, they reported the proper figures. Otherwise, even in the US, to the SEC reports, either they were vague, or they kept the data blank, or they were just not knowing how to report it. So, because sourcing is just not clear. So, and then it has also led to the imposing fine.
So let's
Bank of America
toss
and
this
so many
around
banks.
with the refining industry, since this is a refining thing. There is this concept of auditing for responsible gold. There is now in India one firm of chartered accountants, that's Ernst & Young, that has actually undertaken auditing of responsible gold. They've done ours for 2 years. We're the only ones who have it. So would industry like to volunteer itself for an EY to come and do your audit for responsible gold? Purely voluntary, no persuasion, no compulsion.
From a Sipu Gold, we always welcome that.
You welcome it.
Yeah.
Anil, what's your take?
As far as the import of Dore is concerned, we welcome that. What about the gold which is being circulated, the recycled gold?
Let's not look at that because that didn't feature in this panel
Dore we
discussion,
welcome.
so I'm not
Dore-
going to
Dore-
go down that route.
Yes, so
I'm
Dore
happy
we
to
welcome.
debate it, but not just now.
Okay,
So let's kind of recommend that here's a refining industry that is voluntarily willing to subject itself to a responsible gold
Yeah,
audit.
we do that. We
This
do that.
Findings can be kept confidential. They need not be made public, but I think it's one step forward. Jerry, you had to say something?
Yeah, I would just like to mention a positive thing about
Yeah.
the whole ethical discussion, which is obviously very favorable and come very much to the forefront in the last 2 years. Is anybody aware that since the middle of the 1990s, there was one company who made bullion banks sign letters confirming that all the gold they will supply to this company is ethical green gold, and that it's absolutely transparent, the origin of the gold. That company in the mid-90s was Tiffany. They were the first one who,
True.
when no one ever even dreamed of talking about ethical gold. And I think that should also be positively mentioned.
Okay. I'll just move on to slightly different topic, hallmarking challenges and BIS vision on hallmarking. I don't know the BIS vision on hallmarking. Hallmarking challenges, I have a view that the way hallmarking is practiced in India, as distinct from the theory behind hallmarking, the way it is practiced leaves much to be desired. And I think of the 350 or 360 hallmarking centers, Anil, you feature very prominently in that association. I think you yourself are a little embarrassed.
Yes, we are embarrassed because of the quality of hallmarking centers which have come up lately or being monitored by BIS.
Well, I understand BIS do not have a system of proactive monitoring. It does not
They
exist.
have a system of monitoring. but it's-
Monitoring, yes, but proactive monitoring is you work to a distinct plan.
but it's not
You send
applied-
out samples, you get results, you check what's happening. It doesn't happen here.
No, it does not happen.
So should it? Should we recommend to BIS to do proactive monitoring?
Proactive monitoring is required by a private player. I think probably instead of BIS does not have enough expertise also to do that. Had it been
okay.
given to a private agency who can neutrally probably devise a system where proactive monitoring is possible, I think.
So when you
that
look
would be
at
more-
the sort of response you get saying that there are quite a few hallmarking centers where you're embarrassed, and just very quickly drifting back to the gold monetization scheme where this concept has come in that the word of the assay center is final. Does that not raise issues?
That's true.
It does?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I just wanted to flag that point. I don't know, KP, if you have a thought on this issue, because if we believe that there are challenges in hallmarking, and the challenges are essentially because of the intricate nature of Indian jewelry. Where you have machine-made jewelry, the challenges are lower. But when you have typical Indian jewelry, which may or may not be made by one karigar, it may be made by a number of people, then hallmarking does become a challenge. I don't know if you have a view on this.
Yeah, that's very true. I think probably the type of jewelry being given to a hallmarking center is the manufacturing of hallmarking center, hallmark jewelry, or the manufacture of jewelry which is coming to hallmarking center, the control over that manufacturing sector itself is not there.
So, but that does not mean that the hallmarking center is going to dilute the way it works.
It's not diluting. We are basically the hallmarking centers are forced to dilute the system.
He's not pointing a gun at your head and saying, if you don't sign, I'll kill you. He's not doing that.
That's what is happening in reality, in fact.
Well, that's a bit of a...
Just to add some...
Rajesh ji, I just wanted to add that basically in hallmarking, the core issue that why it is not up to the proper quality and standards is because they are not maintaining proper data. There is no proactive compliance. There is no quality measurement. There is no post-compliance monitoring.
Are you suggesting that hallmarking is a failure in India?
To a large extent. Just because they don't
I
have
wonder what the audience would say.
compliance
They're
mechanism to
full of
monitor.
jewelers over here. I think they'll take a lot of offense to that, but never mind, that's okay.
So this is my independent
No,
opinion.
you're
of course.
absolutely entitled to your view.
Here we are expressing our independent opinion.
Perfectly fine.
So the region, India is such a big player. It's an industry leader in terms of bullion jewelry. We must have the international global vision. So the reason why the exports are declining from last few months is because of there are certain issues, maybe the issue related to the supply chain management. Even the banks are these days scared up to work as a bullion bank. And just now there was an idea to exchange a bullion exchange. I think that is a great idea. And that great idea can work only when there is the ethical based of supply chain management, managing the whole thing with the independent auditors, and there is a post-compliance issues and challenges that have to be looked into.
So when you look at these issues related to these challenges, how do you actually get to know the precise purity of gold and the precise purity of gold in gold jewelry? How would a normal person find out? The normal person would go to an eminent jeweler and would say, this is hallmarked, and here's the hallmark, and this is what it says. And the customer will accept it and say, at least I know what I'm getting, and pay the right value for it, which is great. But the point is, with all these challenges that you've just tossed up,
That's how the organized jewelry is growing.
how do you determine this precise purity? What is the answer? What's the way forward?
Oh, that's how the organized jewelry is growing now. The organized jewelry segment's growth is precisely dependent
So
on
are
that.
you saying this is a question for branded jewelry, and therefore you should buy branded jewelry because the chances of doing better?
It's the jewelers who are in the most organized segment or the more professionally managed jewelers.
पृथ्वीराज जी, आप बताएं इसके बारे में.
देखिए हॉलमार्किंग अपना जो BIS गोल्ड ज्वेलरी जो है मेरे हिसाब से सेटअप बॉक्स के जैसा गवर्नमेंट को कंपलसरी कर देना चाहिए. जैसे सेटअप बॉक्स पहले मेट्रोपॉलिटन सिटी में किया, फिर मेट्रो में किया, फिर रूरल, तो धीरे धीरे 100% गोल्ड शुड बी द हॉलमार्किंग. आज भी बहुत से सेक्टर में 83% चलता है, कोई 76 भी बनाते हैं. तो धीरे 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 अगर एक जैसा हो जाता है कि हॉलमार्किंग शुड बी कंपलसरी फॉर ईच एंड एवरी ज्वेलरी, तब जाके एक स्टैंडर्ड की क्वालिटी एक सुधर जाएगी.
Som Sundaram and his organization, the World Gold Council, recently launched a very interesting report on its review of hallmarking of jewelry in India. And these are not my words, these are the words that come out from that report. And the report makes very, very depressing reading. I think you said something to the extent that more than 30% of the jewelry is below caratage. Hallmarked, but below caratage. And the biggest challenge, one of the challenges that will come on the gold monetization is when a customer walks into a purity verification center, delivers a hallmarked gold jewelry, and the purity verification center says it's not 22 carat, it's 18, then you see what happens. Any views on that? Anyone?
I think there are a couple of problems. If you look at the hallmarking center, what happens is whether BIS has got a statutory power to really pull up a hallmarking center. And we met a couple of hallmarking centers in Rajkot. What really happens is that one hallmarking center is offering 3 rupees, another hallmarking center is offering 10 rupees. So what happens is a jeweler tends to go to one who's offering a lower one. So obviously that is something, which is one of the big problems. And I think the government needs to, as Prithviraj ji said, a country like Sri Lanka is compulsory hallmarking. Why doesn't a country like India come out with a law where it's like ISI? Today, every product...
Everything must be ISI.
Everything must be hallmarked and they should be statutory audit. And if somebody fails at audit, maybe it should be penalized or there should be legal remedies, something should be done. I think the government should become a bit serious about hallmarking.
I remember that we were at the LBMA before I came to Dubai. I was on the management board of the LBMA. We were talking about potential undercarriage in India 6 years ago. Yeah. And our worry was that it's not necessarily in the main cities. The undercarriage takes very often place probably in rural areas where there is no real structure.
Absolutely.
And this is where the issues, but we at the time, we refrained from raising this issue because we thought it could lead to social issues and to confrontation.
Anil, you receive gold jewelry for refining. And by and large, what's your take on the post-melt caratage of the gold that you verify? By and large.
We have yet to come across, I think probably in so many years of getting scrap refined, there could be hardly 2 or 3 lots. I don't remember having ever received a lot of 9160.
Not one.
Not one.
Thank you very much. This is the
But
Indian
tell you
Bullion Summit.
When the original refining started, we are having an average purity to around 73 to 78%.
I'll tell you what our experience is, and we keep on getting larger quantities, and we have not found a single lot where the gold content is higher than 80%.
Yeah, that's true.
But Prithviraj ji, आपकी क्या राय है इसके बारे में?
देखिए, अगर केरला से अगर आप ज्वेलरी मेल्ट करते हैं तो 87% आएगा. अगर आप नॉर्थ में करते हैं तो 76 to 78, और कभी-कभी लक आपका हुआ तो 80% आ जाएगा.
So, this is the Indian Bullion and Jewelers Association. So the jewelers community, and I do apologize, I'm only a moderator over here. I'm not a manufacturer, is suddenly being told that if you get 80%, you should consider yourself lucky. This gold monetization scheme is going to make a lot of jewelers extremely uncomfortable, I can promise you that. You want to say something on this?
Apart from hallmarking, in fact, while talking about the GMS and the sovereign gold bond scheme, if you look at all the success factors, if the banks were able to de-risk themselves on the commodity exchange platform, if they were allowed to hedge directly, that could go a long way. And if the certificates, the gold certificate as well as the bond, are made tradable on the commodity exchanges as a premature exit route, that could also incentivize people to come and participate in these.
Would it incentivize jewelers to actually deliver the caratage that is marked on the jewelry?
Well, if an Indian standard,
I think
like
that's
you said,
what we are
if that can
debating.
evolve.
How do we get to improve the stated caratage on gold jewelry, which therefore relates to how do you know the precise purity of gold and gold jewelry? Clearly, we are seeing the challenges in the hallmarking. And I think both Anil and VK will bear me out. The only way you can do it is by melting it and homogenizing it, and then making sure that you have a representative sample. Yeah. Of course, this upsets jewelers because nobody wants to see gold jewelry being melted just to determine the amount of gold in it. So Any suggestions as to how to solve this? Because jewelers will go to karigars and somebody will give a tanka and somebody will give a link and somebody will give a chain, somebody will give a hook, and they'll put all of this together and make a very nice piece of jewelry. But you've got it from 5 different sources, so what do you do?
See, if you are talking about the gold monetization scheme, you should target the larger part
No,
of it.
no, I'm not taking this to gold monetization. That's been done.
No. See, if you are talking about retail part, it will take a longer
I'm
period.
talking about how do you know the precise purity
So
of gold.
precise purity you can get after melting and fire assay.
So what you're saying is there's no other way.
There is no other way.
Well, what is this thing about, customer beware?
I think we should go for, because we have been telling time and again that jewelers who manufacture jewelry should use only standard products. Why can't a manufacturing industry take a responsibility of using only standard products?
You could, in a sense, relate it to audit of responsible gold, because responsible gold does not stop only at the raw material. It also covers where are you getting all your other consumables. So you could maybe link it, yes.
Yeah, see, if you are talking about manufacturing, India exporting gold jewelry, same gold jewelry when they are exporting from India, their carat is not underestimated. When they are selling to India, their carat is underestimated. How this is happening?
Well, anybody like to volunteer? Jerry, you want to say something?
Couldn't you, through a spectrometer or these days modern methods, determine pretty exactly
Well,
what the jewelry
we
contains?
had recently visiting us a team from the Birmingham Assay Office. And those of you who've been looking at assay in India, way back in 1999, when hallmarking was introduced in India, the BIS went to 2 assay centers. One was the Birmingham Assay Office and one was the London Assay Office, and sort of copied everything, but that was 1999. We are now in 2015. Technology has evolved over 16 years. If you now go to the Birmingham Assay Office and you take a piece of Indian jewelry, they will XRF it at least 8 different locations to establish homogeneity before they do hallmarking. And I don't think that's happening in India.
Yeah, that's not happening.
After the 8 places, you will not come to know the homogeneous. 100% you can't. That's also the probable.
Okay, there's just a little request. I have speakers for panel number 3. If you will be ready, I intend to wind up pretty quickly. Thank you. Yeah, sorry.
Rajeshji, I have just one suggestion. This is the appropriate platform. Right now, everybody is talking the responsible jewelry, it's auditing, and you just informed that in India there is only one auditor doing these things.
For the simple reason that there was only one refinery that subjected itself
Yes.
to
So
responsible gold.
my request from this platform, especially to the IBGA, because IBGA leadership,
No,
their
these are all
association
things I
is
hope
recognized.
Mohit is listening to very carefully.
And then their voice has gained a lot of credibility. Their rates are accepted. RBI has accepted.
Absolutely.
Circulars have been issued. So this is my request to IBGA leadership and management to introduce some kind of ethical body, independent body, even out of the IBGA, having the some kind of to avoid the conflict of interest. So some accredited third-party auditors, some members are there. A team is created. And then they are able to do some kind of internal ethical checks, quality checks, and then without any kind of regulation, without any kind of publishing data for the public consumption.
Mohit, we make you an honorary speaker. Would you like to say something?
सिंह साहब, मैं क्वेश्चन पे आ रहा था, आपने जो बोला, बेसिक प्रॉब्लम सबसे बड़ी ज्वेलर्स को क्या आती है कि आइदर वो गोल्ड जब कारीगर को बनाने के लिए देता है, पॉइंट किधर आता है, या तो वो गोल्ड बैंक से प्रिक्योर करता है, या तो वो अपने बाजार से लेता है. बाजार से लेता है तो जो बुलियन मर्चेंट है वो अभी इतनी रिफाइनरीज इंडिया में खुल रही है, डोरे लाते हैं, प्रोसेस का गोल्ड होता है, जो पुराना गोल्ड सोना बेचना आता है वो गोल्ड लेके रिफाइन करके अपने नाम का बिस्किट बनाते हैं, कैडबरी बनाते हैं और ज्वेलर को बेचते हैं. उसकी प्योरिटी या उसके अंदर इरेडियम मेटल या उसके अंदर जो इश्यूज रहते हैं उससे ज्वेलरी के प्योरिटी में फर्क आता है और हॉलमार्किंग के अंदर काफी फर्क आता है. जब रिटेलर के पास जाता है तो हॉलमार्किंग फेल होती है.
मोहित जी, आपकी समस्या एज अ मैन्युफैक्चरर तो हम समझ गए, बट आई एम अ कंज्यूमर.
100%. I'm coming to
I'm
a
paid
point.
for 22 karat
Yes,
gold.
yes, yes.
How are you going to reassure me?
नहीं 100%. I'm not coming to consumer. क्यों ना हम जितनी रिफाइनरीज इंडिया में है एसोसिएशन के तरफ से उनको अप्रूवल करने का और एक ब्रांडिंग की सब लोग अपनी कैडबरी बनाए जो खुद अप्रूव करे कि ये दिस इज 995 देन इट इज 995 इट इज नॉट 994 और 993 और 999 के अंदर ही वो 999 प्लस होनी चाहिए उसके नीचे नहीं होनी चाहिए वो एश्योरिटी सर्टिफिकेट अभी इंडिया में लीडिंग हर डोरे बार की सब्सिडी के हिसाब से रिफाइनरी लेकिन उनकी क्रेडिबिलिटी क्या आज रिसाइकल का गोल्ड आ रहा है रिसाइकल के गोल्ड की क्रेडिबिलिटी क्या तो एक सर्टिफिकेशन प्रोग्राम होना चाहिए जब आप पीछे से ही सही कर दोगे तो आगे रिटेलर्स को कंज्यूमर खुद ही बेनिफिट हो जाएगा
And I would suggest that somebody like IBJA as an institution should take the lead in this.
100%. But do you think all the refiners will come under one brand? Then we can go for it.
अगर
Listen,
IBGA शुरू करेंगे तो मान्यता बिल्कुल
you need
मिलेगी।
to start the journey. There will be roadblocks on the way, but you should be very clear that this is the Mount Everest I'm going to climb. And don't waver from that and say, this is where I'm going to be.
100%. सर अगर MMTC PEM से शुरुआत करे एक सर्टिफिकेशन
I've already told you, I have absolutely no issues.
so we are with you. तो एक रिफाइनर्स के लिए सर्टिफिकेशन प्रोग्राम जो उनकी ऑथेंटिसिटी और उनकी क्रेडिबिलिटी वो सर्टिफिकेट से जस्टिफाई हो और वो भी क्रेडिबिलिटी के अनुसार 995 तो इट शुड बी 995 तो किधर भी मुझे लगता नहीं है फिर मैन्युफैक्चरर्स को प्रॉब्लम आएगी
आपको कुछ कहना है इसके बारे में?
ये सबसे पहले तो हिंदुस्तान में आईपीसी एक्ट के अंदर हॉल मार्किंग को डालना चाहिए। हॉल मार्किंग में सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम क्या आती है कि मैन्युफैक्चरर बोलते हैं जैसे मेरी दुकान है मैंने ज्वेलरी बनाने के लिए दिया मैं तो नहीं बनाता हूँ मैं हॉल मार्किंग सेंटर में देता हूँ हॉल मार्किंग सेंटर की जो रिपोर्ट आती है सपोज इसमें 2 टच कम आ जाता है जैसे आपने बताया कि बहुत बार ऐसा हो रहा है कि टच में फर्क आ रहा है तो इसका रिस्पॉन्सिबल कौन ऑनर रिस्पॉन्सिबल और हॉल मार्किंग सेंटर और मैन्युफैक्चर जब तक आप इसको आईपीसी एक्ट या कुछ भी जब तक उनको प्रेशराइज या रेगुलेटराइज नहीं करोगे तब तक प्योरिटी में कभी ऐसे होता ही रहेगा
Possession is 9/10 ownership. If you're selling it, you're responsible.
Yeah, exactly. But it's वहाँ से कहीं पे खिड़की है कि मैंने नहीं बनाया इसने है।
कुशला साहब एक
just
a small
yes, of course,
remark basically ये जो एक सेंटर में कुछ हो गया दूसरे सेंटर में पास हो गया the thing is जो सेंटर में जो हॉलमार्किंग सेंटर है उसमें भी जो technical capability hai, that is also question mark.
No, we are familiar with the issues for hallmarking.
Yeah.
Because when you do fire assay, there are issues in competence to do fire assay.
Fire assay also has to be done in certain manner.
So my question to you, Anil, and sorry to interrupt, last question. What if somebody like the IBJA, and sorry I'm putting words in your mouth, Mohit, said, we will set up an institute and train assayers in India. What would you say to that? There is no institution in this country that trains assayers.
100% बहुत brilliant idea है.
It does not exist.
100% इस पे हमको
And I know Som sitting behind you, I've been tossing it with him. And why I mentioned it, because we need industry participation.
Yeah, because industry needs actually good assayers. Basically, that's what we are lacking, and that's why we have so many differences.
I am happy to tell you, Birmingham Assay Office in principle have said yes, if we can get the industry together, they'll be happy to lead the initiative.
It's a great idea, actually.
दास साहब ने बहुत अच्छी बात बोली कि आने वाले समय में 10 लाख से 15 लाख रोजगार इस इंडस्ट्री में बढ़ने वाले हैं चाहे ऐसे के रूप में वर्कर्स के रूप में बढ़े या दूसरे वर्कर्स के रूप में बढ़े ये इनिशिएटिव ओवरऑल हम लोग को नेक्स्ट बोर्ड मीटिंग में डिस्कस करना चाहिए कि ये सेगमेंट को भी वर्कर्स को कैसे ट्रेन कर सकते हैं और सर्टिफिकेशन प्रोग्राम उनका कर सकते हैं इसके ऊपर हमको सोचना चाहिए काफी अच्छा ये पैनल डिस्कशन में ये पॉइंट आया जिसको नोट करना चाहिए
Thank you very much. On that happy note, thank you very much. I'm sorry I had to rush through it, but we're just about in time. Thank you. Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sadiq. Pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rajesh Khosla, our moderator, and our very distinguished panelists. We would like to felicitate each of them, and I'll request IBJA directors, Mr. K. Srinivasan, Mr. Kantilal Mehta, and Mr. Praful Ranawat to kindly come up on the stage and do the honors and felicitate our moderator and panelists. And requesting the moderator and panelists of panel discussion 3 to kindly stand by. We'll invite you on stage in just a couple of minutes. We'd like to felicitate Mr. Rajesh Khosla, our moderator. Mr. Rajesh Khosla, our moderator. Mr. Sudeep Bandyopadhyay. Mr. Prithviraj Kothari. Mr. Prithviraj Kothari. Mr. Chirag Sheth. Mr. Chirag Sheth. Mr. K.P. Singh. Mr. V.K. Agarwal. Mr. Satish Nambiat. Mr. Satish Nambiat. Mr. Shivanshu Mehta. Mr. Shivanshu Mehta. Mr. Gerhard Schubert. Mr. Anil Kansara. And Mr. Samir Hoshangadi. Thank you, and a round of applause once again as we take a group photograph for all our panelists and for Mr. K. Srinivasan, Mr. Kantilal Mehta and Mr. Praful Ranawat for doing the honors and felicitating our panelists and our moderator.